Okay everyone, I recently asked for all your hottest Genshin takes on a recent community post of mine, whether they be about meta, lore, or designs, and now it's time to read them out and discuss. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Obvious disclaimer, don't be rude to anyone because of a certain take they hold. Keep it cool, man, then we can all have a fun discussion together. How does that sound? I also deeply apologize if your hot take wasn't able to make it into the video because there were so many of them. If this video does well enough, then I'll make a part 2 and cover the ones that I wasn't able to cover in this video. So starting off at this point, I'm not gonna read out the entire thing because it's pretty long, but the TLDR of the story one being that Arlecchino and Tartaglia have the most realistic coworker relationship in the game. You're not wrong, I do like Arla's voice line about not judging him too early as a Fatui Harbinger because he's young and inexperienced, but even so, I wouldn't really say that the other coworker relationships in the game are that unrealistic. Like, Chloriander and Riesli, they just drink tea together sometimes. I don't really see how that's unrealistic. Or the Liyue Qixing, they're just kind of like government people. It seems pretty normal to me. I haven't seen any relationship where it's like, oh wow, that's way too friendly, or that's way too rude, or anything like that. It just seems like fine. As for gameplay, the problem is that I don't think Hoyo is literally allowed to change what constellations do or alter a character's kit in any way after they've been published out into the wild. But perhaps if it was a buff, I don't think people would complain much because Zhongli got changed way back when, and everyone was fine with that because he got changed to be good. So, while I'm not sure if that would ever happen, I don't think it would ever happen. I suppose it's an interesting idea. The Ascension 7 passive is more realistic, but I would really hope they would add that to level 90 instead of making it like, oh, a level 100 thing, because my own hot take is that I don't really want level 100 because holy guacamole, that would be a lot of resources. All in all, like, yeah, I'd say these are decent takes. Moving on to this one. So, in my opinion, when it comes to the whole quality of life thing for 5.0, the best thing that came out of that was the weapon banner fix. That was undeniably fantastic, and I am very happy that they added that to the game. Then, with the improved wishing rates, at least it does add something that's a little better. I didn't actually know that the special wish event triggers after 2 50-50 losses, but apparently it does, so the rates did ultimately get improved, and the artifact transmuter, it has its issues. It's definitely not a perfect system that can be improved upon. Even so, I would say that, like, yeah, like, fair enough if you hold this opinion. Like, that's completely fine. I can see why you would think that. I do think it's great that we got the weapon fix. I was very happy about that. And 5.1 bringing in the Abyss skip, oh my goodness. Ever since I got added to Honkai, I was like, can they please add this to Genshin? It's so annoying that we don't have it. When it comes to whether it's actually a hot take or not, I also think it depends on who you ask. I feel like there is like a large group of people who would agree with you on this, but there's also a large group of people who'd be like happy enough with what we got in 5.0. I think that 5.0 was a great step in the right direction, but I'm a little bit disappointed that 5.1 is not as good as 4.1. Like, think about it, okay? 4.1, we got Riesli and Nervalette, 2 limited 5-star characters, very cool. We got the Fortress of Meropide, not only to get the Fortress of Meropide, and a ton of quests to go with it, and listen, I personally really enjoyed those quests. I thought they were great. We also got a whole new area, and we were also getting a continuation of a fantastic Archon quest. I think most of us can agree that the Fontaine Archon quest was like peak Genshin. So then you take a look at 5.1, we're getting 1 limited. I mean, fair enough, because in 4.0 there was only Linny, but then we're also getting no new area, just an Archon quest continuation, and I suppose we are getting Primo Gems for exploration, which we've already completed, which is quite nice. But even so, 5.1 does feel a bit smaller than 3.1 or 4.1. Just an interesting observation of mine. So then we move on to this take. Okay, so the thing is, the catch was such an influential, amazing free weapon, but didn't Sumeru have some fishing weapons, and I don't really think anyone really cared. I think Fontaine also had a fishing weapon. I'm sure they have their characters, but none of them were nearly as influential as the catch. So even if we did get a not-long fishing weapon, I doubt that it would be as good as catch. Even so, it's a freebie, just throw it in there, why not have it? And I'm sure there's some people that like fishing, you can collect it for teapot and whatnot. whatnot. So yeah, it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, I personally don't feel the absence of it in the game, but I can see why you would want it, because why not? It's a freebie. And about the old 4-star event weapons, true, refinements as well. We need some way to get the old event weapons. My Cinnabar Spindle is still R3, and that makes me really upset. And you know how many people would like to use Festering Desire on their Farina, but they probably joined like Infontaine or Sumeru and just can't get it anymore? Also, Festering Desire is just a really cool weapon name and it looks cool, but whatever. So that should be a thing. Or Dialogues of Desert Sages. Chevres is a good unit. There's gonna be people that are gonna want that for their Chevres that can just never get it now. So yeah, that's fair. I actually know someone else who really likes Dragonspine, so fair enough. I personally have very fond memories of Dragonspine. I think it's such a shame. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I think it's such a shame that they just never brought back the heat or cold mechanics. It was so interesting. I do think there's some characters who should have had immunity to it, like Albedo or Raiden Shogun, because there's this cool detail where Raiden doesn't breathe because she's a puppet. So that's a bit strange. Even so, I'm not sure if I would say that Dragonspine is still, like, the best area when we have the Chasm, when we have Enconomia and whatnot, but it is a cool place. I do like it. And yeah, no, Albedo is definitely a really cool character. I agree. I'm really sad that they just don't do Albedo events anymore, because the 2.3 was really solid. I think Mona's also fairly interesting. The 2.8 event, like the look into her psyche, was very interesting. I do think Albedo is more interesting because we don't really see Mona as much. The little cameo when she appeared in Fontaine was kind of funny because that was just kind of out of nowhere. But yeah, good take. I don't necessarily agree, but it's a very justifiable one. I can see why you would think that. Okay, I really don't think that this is a hot take. I think most people would agree with you on this, but even so, I thought the wording was funny, so I'm throwing it in here. I actually think it's kind of weird that we don't get to hear about the Traveler's previous experiences at all, because they were a world traveler. They have been to many universes outside of Teyvat, and it would be really interesting to know, you know, where else they've been or what. Because, for example, you would think that maybe some of their survival knowledge would come from how they've survived in other worlds or what they were doing in other worlds. Why do they go to other worlds? Or do they just do it for fun? Do they have any particular role as to why they go to other worlds? Because in Honkai Star Rail, you go to other worlds for the sake of getting the Stellarons, right? And to, you know, trail Akavili and all. Yet we don't really know why the Traveler does their traveling. It could just be for fun. Like, that's a perfectly justifiable reason as well. Like, people travel for fun all the time. And you know what? They can do it on a universal scale, so why don't they? But, you know, it'll be interesting to hear about that. I'm speculating that they're probably just saving it for some big lore drop moment. Whoa! But yeah, I'm with you on this. I'm including this one specifically because I disagree, and I'm a woman. I like men, okay? So hear me out. The reason I disagree is because, think about it, in Sumeru, we got so many dude characters, and I think the next time we got like a limited 5-star female character was like when Farina came out. We had so many dudes for so long, and I think we have a very good portion of dudes compared to most gacha games. I would say it has one of the better male to female ratios in favor of the females, and I think that's great. I really like that. Trust me, I get happy when they make a new male character. I love getting excited for the new male characters, but even so, I would say that Genshin is like the gacha game where this is the case the least, and that's great. And that's another thing. They've got lots of different types of dudes. They got twinks, they got like straight on femboys, they've got just regular average looking dudes, they have buff people, you know, they have all different types of dudes, and that way there is something for everyone. And I think that's really neat. So I would say that, you know, Genshin faces this syndrome the least out of any gacha game, and the dudes that they do have are really cool, and there is usually at least a couple of limited 5-star dudes per region. And if you felt like that Fontaine was a little woman heavy, look at Sumeru. Like, it's kind of justified. That was very man heavy. Now, I would like more male characters, trust me, but I also think that Genshin makes some banger female characters. I love Ganyu, I love Farina, I love Xianyun, I love Shenhe. Like, there's lots of great female characters as well. So I disagree, personally. So true! This is why I hate Chiori C1, because it's like, did you even have to put the construct restriction there in the first place? Tau C1 is pretty bad too, I would say. Like, it's the same kind of thing, like selling the solution. It's just dumb. I don't like it. It's whale bait. It's obvious whale bait. I personally like it when it's kind of like Nervalet or Farina when the base kit is fantastic, but the constellations just build upon a really, really strong base, if you know what I mean. Whereas, you know, just selling the solution to a fix that you could easily make, that's just so annoying. Okay, so this one is interesting because I have had times where I like really overrated Cyno, I have had times where I really underrated Cyno, and I'm just kind of in a limbo as to how to rate this guy. Now, in my opinion, when I've played the guy, I have his signature weapon, I have his burst crown, I have his best team and whatnot. He doesn't feel great. His multi-wave is awful for starters. He feels like decent enough in single target, but there's just much better options. Like, yeah, no, he's not unplayable or anything. He's definitely better than he was on release, but he's just really expensive. I would say he's equally as expensive as Xiao because they both want like really high-end teams to perform. I feel like with Cyno, the cost is not justified, whereas with Xiao, like, yes it is, you get really good performance out of it. So while both are not free-to-play friendly, I would definitely say if you're going to invest into any of them, go for Xiao. So yeah, he's better than he was on release, but I would be hard-pressed to call him good, especially after Fontaine happened. Okay, so this is interesting, because I would actually be curious to hear your opinions on Nervalette then, because he's also written to be stronger than the gods, he is stronger than the Archons, he'll judge Celestia and all that, he has a voice line about it and everything. So I'm curious to hear what you think about that, because I would say that Nervalette has good writing, but I do agree that I like that the Archons are kind of like the main big powerful people. I mean, there are gonna be some that are weaker than others, like Raiden with Deck Nihida in a fight, so there's that. But they're still like the most powerful beings in the universe. But I feel like it's been implied for a long time that they are, you know, characters that can rival the gods, or how at max potential they could rival an Archon. That's not really a new concept. I think that the delivery of Alice is going to really hinge on what people think of the Hexen Circle in the end. She needs to be fantastic in the story, play a big role there. She needs to have an excellent design, a crazy meta kit, and all of that. She needs to be a real meta definer, story definer in some regard. She needs to be in an Archon quest because they've hyped up the Hexen Circle for so many event patches. Like, there's been so many times that they've just been referenced as these strong beings and whatnot, and we know how Alice is so incredibly powerful. And I'm pretty sure she's a descender. Lore people, you can correct me on that. So, you know, she has to be delivered well. Then I think that it will be a good payoff. I think actually what I like less is that the Notlan gods are humans. I'm not sure, I just really don't like that. I much prefer when they're like immortals. It's different, it is like interesting in a sense that it's so different, but I kind of prefer just the regular like 1,000-year-olds, 2,000-year-olds. I'm a god that has been around for hundreds and millions of years and whatever. I just find that more interesting personally. The funny thing is that factually speaking, you are correct. Like, you're gonna get a lot more out of investing into a Nervalette than investing into a DPS Mika or something. Like, definitely. I think the reason why this is a freeze is because, yes, any character can clear with investment. I would say that's the right phrase to use. If you pour all your resin, all your time, all your everything into one specific character, they will clear the Spiral Abyss, which to most people is enough to be good. Like, the bar is very low for clearing the Abyss in reality, the more skilled you are and, you know, the more you've invested into your character of choice. However, there's always going to be the situation where people don't want to play a character because they find them boring, maybe they think the strongest characters are not that fun to use, maybe they think that in of itself is what makes them boring, that they're way too strong and they trivialize the content too much. Maybe people want the challenge. Like, the reason why people will say this is because not everyone wants to play the top meta picks, because everyone has their favorites in this game, naturally. Like, dude, I still clear with Ganyu, I love Ganyu, I don't really care that she fell off, she's really cool in my opinion, I love her. So there's that situation too, right? So while you're right, like, factually speaking, you're right, you can absolutely be way more resource efficient by just pulling for Nervalette and Arlecchino and putting everything into them. It's more just a case of not everyone wants to do that, and not everyone has to do that if they want to clear endgame. I think the reason why people aren't huge fans of Chaska's design is because it looks kind of funny. Like, oh yes, I love having one pant and one short. Plus, there were some people saying she had like a Roblox face, and I thought that was kind of funny as well. I personally like it because it's very different. That's sort of been the whole thing with Notlan though. All the designs have been really different. They're very hit or miss. I mean, I personally like it because it looks so different. Like, I think it looks interesting. It's cool. I think the pant short is a funny gimmick. I like the cowboy hat. So I think people are justified in not liking it because Notlan designs are so unique. You know, like, they're nothing like what we've had in Genshin before, and people are bound to not like every design because it's such a departure from Genshin's regular style. So if people don't like Chaska's design, fairly justifiable. If people like it, also fairly justifiable, because it's like mayonnaise, you know, either you love it or you hate it. I actually like to use mayonnaise more than ketchup most of the time. However, garlic sauce, clears both easily. Anyways, so yeah, fair enough. I like Chasuka's design. I think there's probably a good group of people that like her design, and there's going to be a group that don't, because Nautilon is just so experimental. So kudos to Hoyo for being experimental in that sense. I do think it looks interesting, but like fair enough for people who don't like it. Okay, my hot take in response to that, also I see that Venti birthday profile picture, the goat. No, not really. I'm gonna make a whole video on this when he comes back. I've already made a whole video on this, but considering how many people still think that Venti is like a garbage, unplayable unit, I need to make another video on this. He's honestly fine at what he does. Like, he's really not that bad. He has more use cases than people think. The thing with Venti, he's basically just in a situation of like, he's decent. He's not horrible, but he's not great either. That's why he's kind of ignored. Imaginarium Theater also helped him out because you can't just Kazuha all the stages, and there are going to be some teams where Venti's going to be better than Kazuha. For example, Kenichi teams, Wanderer AoE speedrunning teams. Like, you know, there are situations where you actually could use Venti, realistically speaking. It's just that he's more so a luxury pull, which is a shame. Like, an Archon shouldn't be that much of a luxury pull, but they had to nerf him somehow because he was just way too broken back in the old days. So obviously I would welcome him being stronger, but my issue with this take is that it usually comes from the sentiment of Venti sucks, he has absolutely no use cases. He has use cases, he absolutely does. He's not as bad as people think. Replace Toma with Venti, then the take is good. This is a hot take, literally just depending on who you ask. Now, my opinion on this is that I like all of the big gacha games. I like Genshin Impact a lot. I like Honkai Star Rail a lot. I like Wuthering Waves a lot. And I'm very new to ZZZ. I can't really comment on it, but what I have played of it, I enjoy it a lot. I just really enjoy this genre of games. I'm very cooked when it comes to these gacha games, honestly. But I can see why someone would like Wuthering Waves more. Like, I personally really like the combat. I think the characters look pretty cool. Well, some of them do. I do think that Genshin's overall character designs are stronger, but yeah, it has some good designs. I really like Changli, I like Donjin, I like Gion. There's some really nice designs there. It's definitely worth a try. It's definitely not going to be for everyone, but I think if you prefer kind of a grittier style, then yeah, fair enough. It also has some really cool mechanics. I think Wuthering is one of those games that you should definitely at least give a shot. See, the start of a game is awful, it's terrible, but afterwards, it's pretty good. The 1.1 story was decent, the 1.3 story was decent. I didn't really play 1.2, but I did play through some of the event. I actually thought that was really fun because, you know in Honkai Star Rail, that one event where it was like the Aramali one, you know, the money managing one? I really like those events. Or the museum one, that was so goated. I really like those kind of like stat managing events. I don't know why. I love those micromanaging events. I live for them. So I actually enjoyed the 1.2 event. So yeah, it's a decent game. Give it a shot if you haven't. I think you're probably looking at it from a gameplay perspective, because from a gameplay perspective, you just give like some random dude some resources, and then he gives you primo gems and that's it. But the reason why people like the Liban event is because it's free. It's free modes, basically, because you don't have to do anything for them. Also, remember that with encounter points in the game now, it's even more useful. So I don't really think it's that overrated because it's literally just free primos. Why would we not want that? Also, he gives us interesting little lore drops about new regions or things we haven't heard before. So, nah, I think it's a great event. I'm not really sure how it could be overrated. Maybe it's because you just see like a lot of love for the guy and you're like, why? Or maybe you look at the gameplay, it's like, we don't really do anything here, but that's kind of why we like it. It's quick primo gems. I can't say no to some quick primo gems. Definitely a hot take though. Mostly including this because I agree so much. I really don't like using Kuki. Her being a single character healer drives me nuts. Like, I'm never not gonna recommend her. She is a really good healer for item teams and whatnot. But yeah, no, I just really don't like using her, man. Also, Indoraptor PFP, very based. I love Jurassic World. I love dinosaurs. I actually have an Indominus Rex hanging on my wall. Yep, agreed. Hyperbloom is like a little bit overrated. It's good, like still use it obviously if those characters aren't on banners. It's still really cheap and you can form it out of 4-star options and whatnot. But if these two are on banners like Nervi or Arlecchino and whatnot, like literally you will see it's a night and day difference. It's crazy. It's crazy. It is so much better than Hyperbloom would ever be. The thing with Hyperbloom is that like you've got C2 Nihida, then you can't really invest more into it from there. It really is just kind of like baby's first Abyss team. So it's definitely easy to play. It has its benefits in being easy, it's comfortable, you know, many characters can form the team, but I do think that if you have access to one of the Fontaine 5 stars, they've blown Hyperbloom out of the water. I'd say this take is hot more so because I haven't really seen anyone be like, oh, I'm so sad that I didn't get Shan Yan. But I suppose there are a lot of teams where you can use her that, you know, people just don't really have her for now. I love Shan Yan, so I'm gonna just agree with this because I love Shan Yan. But I wouldn't really say there's any proof of this. Like, I'm interested. Have you seen anyone in particular saying this? Ending this video with what I consider to be the hottest take. How can you think Remuria was better than the Chasm and Enka? Huh? Like, I played through all three, obviously, right? Like, I've got experience on them. I was actually on vacation when I was playing through Remuria, so I got a pretty good feel for it. Listen, the ending scene for Remuria was really good. I really liked Scylla as well, like the big whale guy. That was pretty cool too. However, I don't know about saying it was better than the Chasm or Enka, man. Enka was so good. I genuinely could not express how much I loved Enka. It was so peak Genshin, honestly, peak Genshin. So sad we never go back there, ever. Can we please go back there for an event or something? Just makes me sad that we never do. And the Chasm, I mean, I might have to refresh my memory. I'm not sure if there's any place that has taken over it yet, but as of now, I believe it's my favorite place in all of Genshin Impact. I love it. I was so happy when it came out. The Shao quest was beautiful. The Dainsleif quest was beautiful. I actually remember reading a comment once. I was like, huh, everyone's gonna forget the name of Dainsleif's friend in that Archon quest. No, I did not forget. His name was Halfdan. So anyways, yeah, I don't know. I really can't agree with this. You're gonna need to justify it. The three more than signs is crazy. At least put like a more than equal. Like, I can't believe it. Okay, it's a hot take. Very hot take. Thank you for sharing your opinion. Alrighty, thank you for submitting all your hot takes, everyone. So, like I said, if this video does well, then I will absolutely make a part 2, because there were quite a lot of hot takes that I wasn't able to cover. However, I quite enjoyed going through them all. I enjoyed making this video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. So yeah, you can also proceed to leave some of your own comments down below here, your own hot takes. I might even put them in a future hot takes video, or even just respond to some of my responses to the takes, you know, up to you. Hopefully this video was able to tell you some of the Genshin community's hottest takes. This has been Juice, signing out. And I genuinely did not think it was such a hot take to think that Toma looks like an NPC.